I actually had a conversation with somebody today about their church and just the man, and without obviously naming the church or anything, but it just seemed like so entrenched in bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, so and so didn't tell so and so, and it caused this problem, which caused this problem. They didn't tell the local chapter of their actual denomination, this and
Blah, blah,
yeah.
blah,
And I was
yeah.
like, man, I just don't.
It's so simple. There's one head. His name's Jesus. Me,
Well,
even though I'm lead pastor.
Well, let me ask you a question. So the way that most churches do this, and obviously this conversation is not to glorify our church or unglorify someone else's. The Lord is the head of all these churches, but it's more of a business question, I guess. But like most churches tend to have like a deacon set up, so like a lead pastor and then deacons who vote on things and whatnot. And how is it that we don't need one? How is it that, because what's to say that like, so I don't even know how we do business right now. Just things seem to happen.
We have a leadership team that we've had since day one. At starting the church, I collected a group of guys. I wanted people who could, I could be accountable to. So it's not just Cowboy Dan, running around saying, this is what we're going to do.
Right.
But basically, everything we do, we've never taken a vote on anything ever, not even in our leadership team meetings. It's all, we're a prayer-based church, because it goes to the philosophy, there's only one head, his name is Jesus, it's not any of us. So if there's 6 of us, and we're trying to decide, do we buy this property, for example, which we've done, then if all of us are in tune and have a good relationship with Jesus, he's going to tell us what he wants, somehow. He's not going to like write it on the wall, but we'll know what he wants because he's the head. We're just his servants. If one of us says, I really don't think so, we won't do anything until all of us are in agreement, in a consensus to this is what the head wants.
Right.
That's kind of how, and like the process is like in land and property and stuff. There've been tons of times we had gone through buildings, gone through land, look at different things, and we'll do this in the future again, where say the staff and I might go out and see some stuff, and we're like, wow, that's really cool, and we'll kind of mull it over. If it really looks good, then we'll kind of throw the leadership team in. What do you guys think? And they'll kind of like, well, okay, we'll pray about it for a while. By the time we actually go out to the congregation and say, hey, we're really looking at this, we ask the whole church to pray, and we don't want the people to vote. We don't want their opinion, because we don't want my opinion. We ask them to pray about it, and people who prayed, we ask for their feedback. What did God tell you? And then we'll kind of, weigh that. Is that someone who really heard from God? I mean, how do we know? Or if it's in consensus with other things. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. It's not like a format.
I guess that's what I'm asking, because people hear that thing and something like that, and I would think, well, the people that are disagreeing with what you say, you're going to say they didn't hear from God, and the people that are agreeing with what you know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like,
you have to be careful.
But that doesn't necessarily make it true, and I don't know, like I feel very comfortable with the setup. It doesn't, that makes it, right for us. But I think it makes logical sense too that, if Jesus is running your church, there really shouldn't need any vote, because there shouldn't be much dissension.
Right.
Like, if you were truly asking the Lord, it's not like he's the author of confusion. You know who the author of confusion is,
Exactly.
And so, there really shouldn't be a whole ton load of disagreement,
right.
Within the church.
There's room for different opinions, different ideas, and everything. And it's not like it's like, well, you're wrong, we're right type of thing. But,
right.
But on big picture stuff, or even like when we bought land for our office ministry center, we just clearly want to know what God wants us to do. All it takes is one person with a not really pure motive that can throw that whole system out.
Yeah.
So it's based on a lot of prayer together as a team, a lot of relationship, and a lot of really focusing on God and completely reminding ourselves continually this is about God, not us, because ego gets in there all the time.
Yeah, I would say like a lot of the stories that I'll hear from people who are disenfranchised with their church, it tends to be as if the church is a lot more people and a lot less prayer.
Yeah.
And if you switch that, because they're focusing on the whatever the infrastructure is in the church. People there's a lot of folks that I think look at the infrastructure of church as another way to like stoke a position in society, because
right.
the church is a microcosm.
True.
Right? It's just filled with more trustworthy people. It's easier to become whatever it is that you want to be in a church full of people who are willingly trying to follow someone because they believe that God's leading them to it. So,
Right.
I think that's one of the things that people run from is just moving from one hierarchy to another within a church where it just looks like it's the same people trying to, drag the same things across, the same garden. So.
Mm-hmm. And there's been times when I really thought something was the right thing to do, and when at the end of the day it was like, no, it's really not. And it all goes down to ego. I really believe that. You got to have a group of people that aren't interested in their own motive and their own.
Well, and that's probably the biggest. I mean, that's probably everybody's biggest foe.
Sure,
when it comes to actually listening to what God wants out of you, is to get yourself out of there. Because who doesn't want to see their, who doesn't want to think that I helped provide this, I did this, this was a good idea, that came from me, and not that stuff is necessarily a bad thing, but it is when it comes to what the Lord wants to get done. And frankly, what the Lord wants to get done should apply to every aspect of your life, not just the church. And so, I mean, if you're, I mean, I'm just as guilty as anybody, when it comes to not getting in the Lord's way with whatever I think is going to happen.
Well, you look at the average church; they're not doing what the Lord wants to get done. Jesus came to seek and save that which was lost. That was his purpose, and you can get so distracted over what style of music do we play, when do we do communion, or do we do it, or how often, what kind of clothes you're supposed to wear, whatever. All that, you get so caught up on that we're totally missing an entire generation that says, I just want to know an authentic Jesus.